How are you doing research? I personally believe that everybody should undertake experiments. Experimental research should prevail. I request everyone undertake experiments. Keep a record of your experiments. Share your experiments with others. Experiments are the most important way to understand our world and to share with the world. You acquire new knowledge through your insight. Knowledge comes from insight, but the experiences, the experiments, they help you in developing your insights. So experiments are the best methods for any research. Every one of us should narrate the stories of great experiments with our young generation. We should share with young generation stories of how Newton conducted experiments, how William Harvey conducted his experiments, how Gregor Mendel conducted his experiments, how great Indian scientists like Sushruta, Varahamihir, Aryabhatta, how they tried to explore the world, understand the world, and what did they share with the world. Students should read about that. The stories of Newton and the stories of Gregor Mendel are available in the textbooks. But it is really unfortunate that the stories of great Indian scientists like Aryabhatta, Varahamihir, Sushruta, their stories are missing in Indian literature. Their stories should be there in every science book. Complete stories should be there in every science book because they were the great scientists from India. What is their scientific contribution? What did they say? What was their observation? That should be taught to every student. A student should be able to understand that science was a way of life in India. India had originated so many inventions, so many scientific thoughts. It should be known to the world. The world should know it, that whatever we know in science today was discovered and presented and written there in the Indian literature way back 2000 years or 3000 or 4000 years back. Those texts, those documents, those evidences should be shared with the world. So you should also undertake and adopt experiments. Scientific experiment. What is a scientific experiment? A scientific experiment is showing cause-effect relationship. You do it, see the impact. So science should become the scientific experiment should dominate the research. Stop all these survey-based researches. Undertake experimental researches. They are real. Give evidences, strong evidences. You feel, yes, it is likely to happen. Even if you are doing social science research, undertake experimental researches. I really do not like this kind of research. I went to a bank, conducted the survey of the bank employee, found they are satisfied, and then returned back and my PhD thesis is complete. This is not acceptable. This is acceptable. Undertake experimental research. Even if you are doing social science research, undertake experimental research. Your research should generate evidences. Your research should generate real life experiences. Your research should help you in developing insight. If Newton did his experiments in science, you can also do experiments. If people could do some experiments in emotional intelligence, EQ, you can also do such experiments. Undertake your research purely on the basis of experimental studies. Make at least 2 groups. One experimental group, one control group. Undertake your experiments on the experimental group. Don't do any experiments on control group, but keep all other conditions same. Keep all things under check, all other variables under control. History, maturation, testing effect, every variable is under control. Just experiment to see one variable. Undertake the experiments and see the finding. There are 2 groups. Compare the data before and after. Compare the data before and after with the control group. And these data will give you the findings. You can undertake such experiments. You want to do an experiment in education, pick up 2 groups. Go to a school, 2 sections are there. One section, second section. Keep one section, one class section as control group. Teach one class group a subject of entrepreneurship. At the end of the year, test both the students, test on their perception of the world, their goals for life, risk tolerance, uncertainty tolerance, stress management, self-management. If you find significant difference, share your findings. Share your findings with the world. That will help you in preparing new theory. Your experimental studies will help you as well as us undertake thorough experiments, practical experiments, develop insights for your understanding, develop insights for the betterment of the world. What is this? I did survey of 200 customers and the customer said we are satisfied. What is this nonsense? Do some experimental studies. Find out the concrete impact and show to the world. This is how you can do the research. This is how it can happen. You are introducing a new product. Introduce with a given marketing input. Organize customers' informal interaction. One group of customers with some marketing inputs, another group of customers with another marketing inputs. Find their reactions, note down those reactions, compare those reactions. It's experimental study. Based on this, you can find out the impact of marketing communications. So undertake this kind of experiments. Your research, every research should be based on experimental projects. Develop an experiment, undertake the analysis, find out, share with the world the findings. The purpose of research is service to the mankind. You will do real service if you are able to develop a model which is verifiable, testable, practical, and which can be seen and implemented by everybody. Well, this is possible only in experimental research. So carry out experimental research. Always, my suggestion is always adopt at least 2 groups, before and after with control group. If you can undertake, then longitudinal studies are the best. Undertake longitudinal studies. Carry out your research over a long period of time, experimental research, longitudinal studies, and find out significant findings. But obviously, longitudinal studies take long time. You do not have that much of time. You may not be able to do it. Fine. Even if you do short time projects, undertake experimental studies before and after with control group. Help people in checking evidences. Carry out your research. Show to the world, these are the findings of my experimental studies. If somebody has doubt, they should validate. They can also undertake similar experiments. They can also share the findings. So simple. Good publications can happen if good number of good researches take place. Good researches will happen if people start abandoning these survey kind of researches and start real experimental researches. You should start. Experimental researches along with very clear understanding of the concepts, development of right conceptual framework, development and testing of the right theoretical framework using experimental research will help you in checking the truth, reality. That is the purpose of research. The purpose of research is, let's come closer to the truth. Let's understand the phenomena. Let us experience the phenomena. Let's dwell ourselves into the phenomena. Let's learn firsthand. When you want to learn firsthand, that is experimental research. You enjoy this. Enjoy the journey of your experimental research. Obviously, you have to take permission of the participants, seek their permission. If they are part of experiments, then disclose to them that they are part of experiments and this is the study. If your study is completely disguised study, then you may not explain the exact purpose, but explain them a roundabout thing. And if it is not disguised study, then share with them the clear purpose. This is my study, this is the purpose, for this I am doing this experiment. And you are part of this experimental study. So conduct experimental study, share the findings with the world, share the observations, develop a model. At the end of the research, your research output should be in the form of a model, a clear model. This is situation, this is the experimental input, this is the finding, and it leads to a relation between these variables. This is dependent variable, this is the independent variable. This variable is influenced in this way. When you change independent variable, this is the impact on dependent variable. So very clear-cut findings should be there. Children should be taught about research from school days onwards. Every child should get an opportunity to undertake experiments, generate research data, generate findings, and apply for patent if there is new development of new technology. Every child should be taught about innovation, entrepreneurship, research, experiments. Every child should be taught about the importance of savings. Every child should be taught about entrepreneurship. Every child should be taught about how they can use their surroundings, how they can understand and explore their surroundings. We need changes in our education. We need to make our people, we need to make our young generation innovative, research oriented, investment oriented, entrepreneurial, risk taking. For that, education has to change. Somebody has to come forward. Why are you waiting for government school? If yours is a private school, you should launch an experiment. Show to the world. If one school can completely abandon the government plan, introduce better plan in its education system, it will become a role model. Everybody will start following it. Well, you can abandon the government plan, because if you want to do something better than what government is suggesting, nobody can stop you. Government says you have to cover this syllabus. You cover this much syllabus. Fine, nobody can stop you. Government says your student should read about physics, this is topic, for 40 hours. You teach 60 hours. Who can stop you? You change the methodology, you change the pedagogy, you introduce new contents. Whatever government is saying, fine, you teach something additional so that students develop better insight. You are allowed to teach more. Who can stop you? You cannot teach less, but you are allowed to teach more. Who can stop you? Your purpose is achieved if you show, yes, you can innovate. If your students become innovative, if they become research oriented, if they become entrepreneurial, if they become creative people, if they become innovative, they start their startups, you will feel happy and you will show to the world a right way. Your contribution will be immense contribution indeed, because you will help the world in changing its education pedagogy, changing the educational structure. Yes, you will be performing a very important role by completely changing the education the moment you introduce research experiments in your teaching. So do it. That will help. Your experiments will help in transformation of the education. Your experimental study will transform the lives of your students. Your students will develop a scientific temper. Next time somebody tells them, do it, they will not do it unless they are convinced, they are able to connect it logically. Next time somebody says, look, do it, otherwise the God will be angry. So what? They will understand. They will apply scientific logic. They will understand there is nothing like God. They will understand we human beings are creators of this world. We human beings are destroyers of this world. Our wrong policies have caused so much of damage to this world. If we have to preserve our world, we have to change our policies. We have to become conscious. We have to be proactive. We have to take purposeful decisions to protect our forest, ecology, ecosystem. Your students will actually understand scientific temper. They will not be misguided by any fundamentalist. Your students will not be misguided by anybody who will misguide them and hand over them AK-47 rifle and ask them, shoot people. That will not happen, because your students will develop required insight, understanding, scientific temperament. They will not be misguided by anybody. They will not just do something because somebody misguides them. They will not get emotional. They will keep their emotions under control. They will look into the facts, look into the reality, analyze everything, and they'll become right decision makers. Therefore, everyday experiments, everyday discussion, and development of a scientific temperament should be the goal of every one of us.